back.
It's us again to talk about horror movies, because we're the horror guys.
We are. It's
with episode
86.
86. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
But we've seen almost all the movies, so we're almost caught up. Almost all the horror movies.
I think we've got a couple left.
Yeah.
Maybe 5, 10 maybe left.
A few more episodes left, I suppose.
All the horror movies now.
Yep.
Except not even
They keep
close.
making more, though.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this week we've got 4 movies and a short, as usual. And they're mostly pretty good.
They were mostly pretty good.
Mostly.
Yeah.
This week we've got...
The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the 1939 version.
Which is not the Lon Chaney one from way back in the old days.
They were doing remakes even back then.
In 39, they remade the one from I'm going to say 23.
That sounds
about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we already reviewed the Lon Chaney one, the silent one from way, way back. If you go to like episode 2 or 3 of our show, that's when we talked about that one. We went way back on that one. But this is the somewhat more modern remake in 1939.
Still black and white, but there's sound this time.
There is sound. We're getting better. We're improving.
Yep.
We will have the short film, The Fourth Wall, from this year. Lust for the Vampire from 1971. The title, it just rolls off.
Lust for the Vampire. Lust for a Vampire.
Is it?
Oh, yes. Yes, you're saying it incorrectly. It's a vampire.
A vampire.
Not the vampire.
Well, okay. I've got a specific vampire in mind, but
yeah, because it's not the vampire, Dracula. No.
All right.
It's a vampire.
And The Omen from 1976.
Classic.
The original. Yeah, and over the next few weeks we'll be watching all the Omen films. And surprisingly enough, there were more than 3.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they stopped at the 3rd one.
They kept going.
They did.
Unfortunately.
It's...
Spoiler, we already saw the last one.
And of course, we also watched Lake Dead from 2007. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it does.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. We should talk about these movies.
We should talk about The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
And if you have seen the Disney cartoon, I know where they got a lot of inspiration from that now.
You're saying it didn't follow the book?
It didn't follow the book, not as much as the other versions have. And he even looks kind of goofy like he does in the Disney cartoon.
Yes.
More goofy than scary.
Yeah.
And there's musical numbers in this. And, just the overall... Of course, Disney, there's still violence, and, but, Disney tamed it up some more, and... Yeah, it's interesting. If you're a fan of the cartoon, you really should see this version to say, oh, yeah, well, that's where Disney got it from.
I've never seen the Disney version.
I've seen enough clips and the musical numbers from it and, various things.
It seems very happy and upbeat from what I have seen.
Wait, this is still grim and, but not as grim, and they completely changed the ending from the book. Yeah.
Well, this one is directed by William Dieterle, written by Sonia Levian and Bruno Frank, stars Charles Laughton, Maureen O'Hara, Cedric Hardwicke, hour and 57 minutes, has sound, does not have color. So did you like it?
Overall, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting and entertaining and a good comparison between the two of them, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's, I liked it, I guess.
Yeah, overall, I give it a thumbs up.
It's not my favorite story in general. I don't mean this particular... I don't care for the Hunchback story that much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, what happens? The king, Louis XI, is in town to examine a printing press that makes Bibles. So you figure this is in the late 1500s. He confides to Frollo how innovative that is. Frollo thinks the press could bring down a kingdom. The king gives a speech about the new ways of the printing press and the old ways of the church. He calls the cathedrals the handwriting of the past. The gypsies are turned away at the gates, but Esmeralda sneaks through on her own. There's a big festival to celebrate the king's arrival. There's dancing and drinking, and everyone has a wild time. The beggars and thieves are working overtime. The king states that we derive pleasure from horror. which of course is very true.
Yes, it is.
Then they have an ugliest man contest.
Guess who's the winner?
Meanwhile, Esmeralda dances, and Gringoire the actor immediately falls in love with her. Esmeralda catches Quasimodo watching her from under the stage. He's just got the one eye peeking out. They stick his head in the ugly man contest, and they make him the king of fools. We are told that he's completely deaf from ringing the bells.
Pretty
What?
close to it.
What? We see that Frollo is no fun at all, and he stops the celebration and runs everyone off.
Yeah, he's just a big old poopy head.
Oh, yeah, he is, yeah. We were talking about the Peter Cushing in that movie last week being no fun. Oh, Frollo's got him beat by a mile. Get those two together at a party and see how things go.
Can you imagine what a downer that would be to have the two of them in the room together?
Well, he runs everyone off, and Esmeralda is recognized by one of the guards as a gypsy, and she runs into the big church to ask for sanctuary. Frollo drags Quasimodo back to the church and tells the priest there to watch over the hunchback more closely. Turns out Frollo is Quasimodo's protector since he was a foundling. Esmeralda looks at Frollo's hand and sees the mark of evil.
Uh-oh.
The king overhears Esmeralda and promises to think about helping the gypsies. Frollo tells Esmeralda that Quasimodo will look over her, but she's terrified of the hunchback. She runs away, and he runs after her and catches her in town, then carries her back to the cathedral with half the town in pursuit. Phoebus, the captain of the guard, rescues her from the hunchback and takes him into custody. Gringoire sneaks into the beggar's quarter and has to beg before Clopin, the king of the beggars. They force him to marry Esmeralda, although she'd prefer Captain Phoebus. Meanwhile, Quasimodo is accused of several crimes, but he has no idea what's going on because he's deaf. He's judged harshly because he can't hear to defend himself in court. They tie him up in the center of town on a pillory, strip off his shirt, and he gets 50 lashes. Then people throw trash at him for a full hour. And you know there's that joke in Batman, where do they all get the fresh fruit vegetables, the rotten vegetables in the crowd?
Where do they come from?
That's what happened here. All of a sudden, everybody pulls out rotten vegetables and throws it at Quasimodo. What, did they have rotten lettuce in their pockets?
They must have, yeah. But all the, they're poor and destitute and, barely getting enough food as it is. And suddenly they have all this food to throw.
Yeah, it does not make sense. Well, he brightens up when Frollo rides in, thinking he will help, then looks defeated when Frollo keeps riding past. He cries for water, and only Esmeralda will bring him any. When he's finally released, he goes a little crazy with the bells. That night, Esmeralda dances with Gringoire in a show, and Phoebus notices her. Frollo also notices her, and he declares his love for her.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Phoebus is killed, and the crowd finds Esmeralda standing over the body. Frollo admits to the archdeacon that he did the murder, and the archdeacon disowns him. There's a trial, and Quasimodo claims to have done the murder to protect Esmeralda. She's found guilty of being a witch and a murderer and sentenced to hang. She mounts a scaffold, and they put a noose around her neck. Quasimodo then swings in on a rope, grabs her, and swings back to the church, screaming, "Sanctuary! Sanctuary!" Esmeralda and Quasimodo have a long discussion about why he saved her, and he finally gets to speak. Not long after, Frollo, the archdeacon, and the king have a conversation where Frollo admits committing the murder. Meanwhile, Clopin and the beggars are outside the church demanding Esmeralda's release. The craftsmen say they are here to help. Before long, there are thousands of people out there.
The peasants are revolting.
Oh yeah. Quasimodo thinks they have come to hang Esmeralda, when actually they all just want her freedom. He does what he can to discourage them from attacking the church, but there are just too many of them. Quasimodo lights up the fire under the molten lead and pours it on the crowd, which actually does disperse most of them. Then the army arrives. He goes inside to find Frollo chasing Esmeralda around the tower, literally chasing in circles. He catches up to Frollo and throws him from the roof of the church. The alarm goes off. Esmeralda has been pardoned by the king.
At which point I said, "What? That's not how the story ends." Well, I had started to get an inkling of that before then, but I think that was the moment where I really said, "What?
Wait, what?
What?"
The Archdeacon...
A happy ending? Happy-ish? What?
Yeah, the Archdeacon says she should thank Quasimodo who saved her life. She goes off with Gringoire, and Quasimodo is sad as he stays behind and talks to a gargoyle.
Now, the gargoyles are not animated and characters
No, they're stone statues.
In this one, but he talks to them.
Yeah.
Which, is a Disney thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, they were living gargoyles that were characters in the Disney.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah.
And so Quasimodo's, well, he doesn't exactly have a happy ending, but he's not dead.
Yeah.
Which beats the book.
And Esmeralda's not dead, and the goat's not dead. And, yeah.
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 The only person that dies is Frollo.
In the book, they even hang the goat.
Well, yeah, you should. I mean, goats are bad.
Goats are evil.
Bad. All right.
Okay.
Well, there's very little here that we haven't seen before, story-wise, until the very end. The ending here is a little different from the previous film and the original book, in that Quasimodo and Esmeralda both live, which isn't supposed to happen. Quasimodo killed a bunch of people, but no one seems to care about arresting him at this point.
Yeah, it's okay. They were just peasants, mostly.
Yeah. Lawton's makeup is awesome. It looks far more realistic than Lon Chaney's did many years before.
It was good makeup, and I read it in the trivia that it took 2.5 hours to apply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked more realistic. I mean, he was not good looking. He was not but it was more realistic.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And the cast is huge with hundreds of people at the big opening festival.
Singing and dancing and making merry.
Yeah. Frollo is racist, sexist, elitist, and 100% uptight and humorless throughout.
Poopy head.
I cannot think of a less happy villain portrayal in a film elsewhere. Cedric Hardwicke probably really outdid himself in this part, playing probably the most unhappy, miserable villain ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We watched the Apple TV version, and it's obviously been restored to HD, if not better. It was well lit, sharp, and the sound was as good as any modern film. It's pretty slow-paced, especially if you're already familiar with the story, and the strange happy ending was a little off-putting.
A little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, wait, what, they don't die?
Huh. And somebody at Disney was watching that and said, what if we make it even happier?
And add singing.
And make the gargoyles come to life? I bet we could make this work. We'll still have them pour lead off the roof, but not actually hit anybody with it. Just block the street with it. Yeah, this could work.
Well, if you can deal with a silent film, you should probably watch Lon Chaney's just because it was the first and it is very good.
Yeah.
But it's long and it's silent, and I get a lot of people can't do that. If you must have sound, this is the one to go to. Have you seen any other Hunchbacks that more modern ones that are good?
Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Yeah, Hunchback films.
Not that I can recall that I've seen.
I'm sure there has to be newer ones.
Yes, there are.
There's been 7,000 Phantom of the Operas. Why not have more Hunchbacks?
Well, yeah, just plug in Hunchback of Notre Dame, and there's multiple versions of it.
Oh, I'm sure there are. Yeah, the cartoon,
but no, I haven't seen others. Yeah.
And it's all about the Disney on Google, isn't it?
If you search for the first film was actually Esmeralda, 1905 French short silent film. Yeah, there's a long list of films. Other animated films, too. People did animations of it.
There was a Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 sequel to the Disney movie. I didn't know there was such a thing.
I thought there was actually more than one. I haven't seen it or heard it. It's one of those straight-to-video things they do.
Okay, so we got the 1911 silent film, which we have not seen.
The Darling of Paris, a 1917 film. Another Esmeralda in 1922. Before we get to
there we go. 23 was Lon Chaney. 39 is Charles Lawton. 1956, Anthony Quinn. Have not seen that one.
And
then the Disney.
No, an animated one in 86.
Yeah, I don't care about the animated. I'm a cartoon bigot.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so Hammer Time,
Lust for a Vampire.
1971. Directed by Jimmy Sangster, written by Tudor Gates and Sheridan Le Fanu, stars Barbara Jefford, Ralph Bates, Susanna Lay. Hour and 31 minutes. Link in the show notes. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah. More shenanigans from the Kernstein clan.
Yeah.
Those Kernsteins that keep popping up in these vampire movies. This is more of them again.
Yeah, and it's just really weird how the timeline goes with these Karnsteins.
Yeah, and this one seemed especially weird. A lot happens, and yeah.
You get prequels before sequels and things that don't quite... It's a very loose series.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Continuity was not something they were shooting
things,
for.
Yeah, the continuity is, what? Yeah, well, that didn't happen. Well, it didn't happen yet. And yeah, you have to just kind of go with it. Enjoy the vampires and the costumes. And
there's a group of movies that have vampires called Kernsteins.
Yeah.
Other than that,
they're all
kind
of interconnected, and yeah.
Well, in this one, a girl walks through the woods and is watched by someone in a creepy black cape and carriage. The carriage pulls alongside her and she gets in. She gets a better look at the passenger and screams. Credits roll. Well, the coachman carries the girl inside, and a budget Christopher Lee-looking actor hands the woman in black a huge knife, which she uses to cut the girl's throat. The two use the girl's blood to resurrect a skeleton from a coffin. Mircalla/Carmilla wakes up and looks alive once again.
She's one from the previous movies.
Yeah, this guy, if he were in a contest, a Christopher Lee-looking contest, would rate about a 7.
He's up there, yeah.
He's not that close, but he's close enough you could tell what they were trying to do.
Definitely, yeah. It's like, oh, they're trying to budget Christopher Lee here. Yeah.
Christopher Lee was in none of these Karnstein movies, but you can tell they wanted him to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the daylight, the barkeeper explains about vampires to Richard Lestrange, a traveler and writer who isn't familiar with the undead. He wants to go up and check out Karnstein Castle, and he finds the blood from the previous night. Lestrange is quickly surrounded by 3 creepy women who turn out to be normal girls who are just friends of Giles Barton.
Oh, okay. See, at first you think they're vampires.
Yeah,
they're going to get him.
They're surrounding him, they're closing in on him, and no, they're just silly girls.
Yep.
Barton has opened a finishing school just down the hill from the castle. The headmistress doesn't approve of Lestrange's books. Books are bad in school.
That's right.
The countess is bringing her niece, a new pupil. Wait, a countess and her niece? Haven't seen that before.
Haven't seen that before yet. Oh, yes, we have.
Well, we get lots of shots of topless girls in the boarding school that night. Because, if you're in a girls' boarding school, all you do all night is run around with your shirt off.
Apparently so.
That's the thing to do.
Especially in Hammer film.
Yeah. Don't think too hard on the fact that they're supposed to be underage teenagers in this boarding school.
20s.
Not really. Not in the story.
No, I mean, the actresses.
Oh, well, yeah,
the
I'm sure
actresses clearly were.
I'm sure that they were legal age and all that.
Yeah, I know, but they were supposed to be.
The characters aren't.
Yeah.
So, just keep that in mind. Lestrange talks to the new English teacher into leaving town, and he volunteers to take the man's place. He has to share a room with Giles. Lestrange, he's the owner of the boarding school, and yet he has to share a room with the English teacher.
They're cutting corners.
Boy, are they.
Yeah.
Lestrange jokes that Barton is in training to become a vampire himself. He's got all the books on vampires. He definitely is a
hobbyist.
One of those emo goth groupie types. Meanwhile, several other girls go missing or are killed with bite marks, even though everyone knows there are vampires about. One of these is Susan, who is Mircalla's roommate.
Imagine that.
Lestrange professes his undying love for Mircalla, even though they've never actually spoken before. What's your name? Mircalla. Ooh, I love you.
Yeah, it was that quick.
Yeah.
Yes.
We see Barton throwing Susan's body into the well. Barton confronts Mircalla, and he knows who she is. He found a portrait of Carmilla/Mircalla. It's rough having so many names. He begs to become her servant. She bites him, leaves him screaming, and then runs off. The next morning they find Barton's body, but the examining doctor is actually Count Karnstein himself. Could they be up to something?
Could be. We're going to just cover this up.
Lestrange digs through Barton's things, and he finds the picture of Carmilla there as well. Now he knows the truth. He looks at Barton's body and finds the bite marks. He confronts Mircalla, and they kiss and have sex as we hear someone singing the weird and completely inappropriate song, Strange Love.
Well, it was Strange Love.
That was just weird.
Strange love going on.
A long song and a long sex video, and it just didn't match. It was weird. More intrigue develops, and someone finally calls the police over the missing girl. A lot of missing girls, no police.
Yeah, took them a while to get on the case.
Yeah. Mircalla explains that her mother is coming for a visit, and that Lestrange mustn't say anything about their love. The headmistress has called the Countess for help making the police go away. The police inspector finds Susan in the well, and soon finds himself down there as well. The Countess then takes care of Susan's body, placing it in a grave, so that when her father has her exhumed, she's exactly where she's supposed to be. Susan's father brings in an expert, who recommends bringing in a priest. Before long, they form a posse and storm the castle. Lestrange wants to stop them, but the crowd is too big.
And again, the peasants are revolting.
A lot of that in Hammer films. The Count and Countess see the mob coming and call for Carmilla to come with them, but it's too late. The mob kills the coachman by staking him through the heart, and they see that he was indeed a vampire. Lestrange rushes into the burning castle to warn her, but Mircalla is killed by a falling wooden plank as the castle burns.
Yeah, and that poor Patsy that was the driver there.
Don't ever be a Karnstein cab driver.
Don't be a Karnstein servant. Yeah. Because they shove him in the way of the mob and say, "Here, slow him down."
Twice now that's happened.
Yeah.
Go defend us to the death.
And he's like, "What? Why me? Because you're the servant. Get out there."
Susan's father pulls Lestrange out of the castle just as it collapses. The Count and Countess are inside, but tell each other that fire can't hurt them. The end. Well, it was way too obvious that they used a close-up of Christopher Lee's red bloodshot eyes when Karnstein resurrects Carmilla.
Yeah, and that was weird how they got away with that.
It was, they close in on this look-alike guy, but then they show Christopher Lee's actual eyes from a previous film.
It was definitely his.
Oh, it was him. Yeah, it was him, no doubt. So Carmilla isn't played by Ingrid Pitt anymore. She, too, has been recast. She didn't want to be bothered. Count Karnstein isn't the same actor as in some of the previous films either, but he didn't speak at all in the movie The Vampire Lovers, the previous film in the series.
He just lurked ominously in the background.
Sitting on his horses staring at people, looking creepy.
Yep.
I assume that most of the girls in the finishing school are supposed to be teenagers, but these actresses aren't fooling anybody. They all look entirely too old for their parts. Still, the topless shots of the teens is tacky, at least by today's standards, even if we do realize it's all pretend. Lestrange is the leading man and hero of the story, but let's not forget that he weaseled his way into the job of teacher to be near a bunch of teenage girls. That may have been the way of things in the 1800s, but not so much today. It's got a very soap opera style, and there's way too much angst in this one. It's not completely clear what's going on until Barton dies, and I really expected that he would come back, although he didn't.
He didn't.
The Count and Countess clearly did survive, so the third film must have already been planned. There you go.
Yeah. Ralph Bates, who played Barton, didn't like the movie.
Well, he was this nerdy guy who was really just sucking up to the vampires, and then he died, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder if it was planned for him to come back as a vampire, and they just cut it because of lack of interest.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, he left a very abrupt... The top named star in the film, and he kind of disappeared 2/3 of the way in. Not his best work.
Kind of pathetically, too.
Yeah.
Please come back. Please let me worship you. Let me kiss your feet.
Well, did you see a short film this week?
We did. We saw The Fourth Wall.
One wall, two wall, three wall,
Fourth wall. Yeah. I thought this one was great.
I like this one, and it's from 2020.
This is up there in my favorite shorts that we've seen so far.
Nice.
Yeah.
Directed by and written by Kelsey Bollig. Stars Lizzie Brocher, Jean-Marc Barr, Roby Chinas, and there's a link in the show notes where you can go and watch it.
For free on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, Chloe is a serious actress who spent her life on the stages of Paris. The result? She's been chipped down into a product of the scrutiny and unfair politics that infest the entertainment industry. Doomed to star in one last performance of Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, Chloe fights for her moment in the spotlight amongst the self-serving newcomers she is forced to share the stage with. How far will she go to be the star of the show? And I have to admit, I didn't write that. That's straight from their blurb.
I wondered about that.
Yeah.
That didn't seem like you're right.
It's not. But, okay, so you liked it.
Yeah, I did. Well, and I think part of my liking it so much was having done some work on stage in community theater. And, of course, nothing was ever this extreme, but, the bickering and the sex and the fights and, the things like, oh, yeah, I can relate to some of that. some of the clashes that were going on. This is amplified, but, yeah.
Actors not getting along with each other.
Yeah. I was very entertained.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, the long walking shots, colorful sets, and over-the-top characters immediately gave me flashbacks to the 2019 film Climax,
Yes.
which we both
Very
thought was
reminiscent.
really good. Mm-hmm. The story here is nothing like Climax, but they definitely seem to have borrowed the look and vibe of the film.
Yeah, the way it was filmed and long hallways with red lighting and
Lots of walking shots, yeah.
Yeah.
We see the backstage infighting and goings-on from the various actors and characters in the theater. Chloe's sporting a nosebleed through most of the film, and we have to assume she's a coked-up addict whose career really isn't what she thinks it is. The audience, of course, loves what they see, even though it's not in the script.
Yeah, that's what makes it even funnier, because there's all this stuff going on backstage, but the audience just sees this little sliver, from what's actually happening on stage.
And they find it entertaining.
Yeah, and they're like, wow, don't understand this, but yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, Chloe unwittingly gives the best performance of her career, but how will she do a follow-up performance?
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, definitely liked that one.
Yes.
All right, now for...
Time for a nice vacation at a resort.
Yeah, 2007's Lake Dead. The place you want to go on vacation. Directed by George Basuto, written by Daniel P. Coughlin. Stars Tara Gerard, Vanessa Viola, and Kelsey Wadeen. Hour 30 minutes. Did you like it?
I liked it pretty good. Yes, thought it was not great, but good. Entertaining.
All right. I give it a
did
solid.
you like it?
I give it a solid meh.
Solid meh. I give it a 6.5.
I'm just
Six
not
to-
that much
pushing
into
on
slasher
7.
type films. You notice we haven't done any Halloween. We haven't done any Friday the 13th.
I've noticed that you've been avoiding those.
Yeah.
Because you're not a big fan of the slasher genre.
I like blood. I like gore. I like murder. I just don't like stalking slashers.
And this is stalking slashers.
It certainly is. It's like a family of Jasons. Kinda.
Kind of a Hills Have Eyes.
There you
at
go,
At a
yeah.
lake resort. A little bit. I mean, they all kind of have that same,
It was well done. It's a good, decent enough
it's in
film.
the
It's
slasher genre.
Not
and
my kind of thing.
You know what we're talking about by being in the slasher genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. People getting picked off and
So you liked it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take his word for it over
yeah,
mine.
Yeah. If you like the slasher genre, yeah, this is worthy.
Well, we start out with an old couple at the Lake Motel who are fighting. He says what they've been doing is an abomination, and he's not going to do it anymore. The old man storms out and is confronted by the police, who shoot him in the head. Credits roll. Well, that's a dramatic opening.
Yeah, it was.
Brielle gets a call from her drunken father in the middle of the night. Her grandfather has died. She thought he'd been dead since she was a child, but it turns out her father lied to her. Brielle and her fiancé Ben go to see Samantha, her sister, who's an alcoholic. The grandfather left the motel to the three sisters. They all decide to go there for the weekend to see what's up. At the funeral, Their father says it was better that they didn't know about their grandfather. He warns them not to go to the motel, but in typical horror film style, he doesn't elaborate, causing all the trouble that follows.
And again, an example of one of those,
Don't communicate.
don't
Don't
communicate, because, if you communicated, that would entirely ruin the movie.
Talk.
It
Yeah.
wouldn't happen.
Samantha goes up to the motel by herself, early and alone. Someone breaks in, ties her up, and then hobbles her legs. A lot like Misery. They row her out to the middle of the lake and throw her overboard. No more Samantha.
No, bye-bye.
Kelly, the third sister, joins up with Brielle and Ben and their friends Amy, Tanya, and Bill for their trip to the motel. What? A van load of young people going to a country motel?
Huh.
What could happen?
What could happen? What could go wrong? Well, yeah.
They
Picked off
arrive.
one at a time.
They arrive and meet Gloria, who has run the motel for 40 years. Gloria says, "You'll never want to leave." They all assume dead sister Samantha has just simply decided not to come. They move their camper over to the lake and go swimming, narrowly avoiding finding Samantha's body. There's a lot of drama and sexy time between the various characters. Bill and Tanya run into the two men who killed Samantha. Tanya gets a pickaxe to the head, but she doesn't die right away. Ben and Kelly go looking for them, and they find Bill hanging from a tree, completely dead. They run back to the camp and pile into the RV seconds before the killers arrive. Amy runs down the road, and one of the killers goes after her. They drive off in the RV, but are soon pulled over by a cop.
Oh, thank goodness, we're saved.
Sheriff Chuck. I want to be called Sheriff Chuck.
Sheriff Chuck.
The evil brothers quickly catch and torture Amy. Ben, Kelly, and Brielle go with the cop while the brothers finish off Amy. In a flashback, we see Gloria explaining to her boys that the tradition isn't dead. Your daddy knew about 2 others that he never told us about. Kill anyone that comes with them.
Sounds like the Grand Negus.
Oh. The brothers, Gloria, the policeman, and dead grandpa are all related. And so are Kelly and Brielle. It's one big unhappy family. Back in the present, the 2 girls and Ben are tied up in the motel, and Sheriff Chuck is trying to get the giant brothers under control. Meanwhile, the girls' father, John, is trying to call them, but not getting through. He gets in the car and heads up there, but it's a long ways off. Ben kills brother Cain, and the 3 prisoners escape. Brielle twists her ankle. Oh my goodness, who saw that coming? As they try to run down the road. The sheriff and brother Abel track them down and chase them through the woods. Ben kills Abel, but the sheriff grabs the 2 girls and drives them to Gloria, who's running the show, and admits that she's their grandmother. She wants Sheriff Chuck to impregnate both girls just to keep things in the family.
Incest is best.
Ben arrives. Ooh, yeah. Had to add that ooh in there, didn't you?
Ew.
Incest is best.
Ew.
I mean, ooh. Ben arrives and shoots Gloria. John arrives and kills Chuck. He loads everyone into the car and takes Ben to the hospital. Time passes, and new guests come to the Lake Motel. And we see that one of the 2 brothers isn't as dead as we thought.
Oopsie.
Room for a sequel.
Yep.
Well, John could have explained himself at the funeral, but communication is never a thing in horror films. There's lots of naked and half-naked girls in this one. If you're into that sort of thing, the scenery is nice. But the story is all extremely predictable and formulaic. A group of young people go out to a strange place in the country and someone tries to kill them all, picking them off one by one. There's nothing here that we haven't seen before, but it's never boring. It moves quickly. Still, it's not original in any way. There is some creative gore, but the brothers aren't that creepy, and the rest of the family aren't that unusual either. Now's your chance to stick up for it.
Yeah, what he said. It wasn't the best of the genre, but
It was well filmed. It did
decent.
not look low budget. It looked
decent.
just fine. Yeah.
Decent. 6.5.
Cinematically, it was just fine.
6.5 to 7. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Phew. What's up next?
The Omen. It's a bad sign.
It is a bad sign. Actually, a really good movie, but it's a bad sign.
Yeah, 1976.
The original The Omen from 76, directed by Richard Donner, written by before Superman. What's probably the year before Superman?
70, yeah, right around there.
He's big with having young people with powers, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, directed by Richard Donner, written by David Seltzer, stars Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, Harvey Stevens, hour and 51 minutes. Did you like it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think this is way up there on the top.
I think it has held up really well.
Probably in the top 10 list for me. I really like this one.
I saw it when it came out at the theater, too.
I don't think I did.
Liked it then. I still like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw it probably on TV very shortly after it was whenever it first came out on TV. Before Omen II, a year or two later. So it wasn't too much after that.
Yeah.
But definitely I saw it on TV. All right, yeah, it holds up really well. It is a classic. It is, one of the better movies, I think.
Yeah, it's very good.
Mr. Thorne's wife loses her baby while in Rome. Miscarriage time. This happens off screen before we start. Thorne then talks to a priest and acquires a similar looking baby whose mother died in childbirth. A little bit sketchy.
Just
no one needs to know. Don't ask questions.
Don't tell her. She'll never know. Nobody else will know. We'll just keep it hush-hush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the mother doesn't even realize. Several years later, Thorne is appointed ambassador to Great Britain, and his wife suggests that maybe he'll even become president someday. On Damien's 5th birthday, they throw him a big birthday party. A big black dog stares intently at the nanny. The nanny then goes upstairs and screams for attention just before she jumps down with a noose around her neck in front of all the children and reporters. Jennings, the photographer, catches it all on film. A priest from Rome comes to see Thorne. He insists that Thorne take communion. This priest was there the night Damien was born, and he's about to explain about Damien's mother when the security shows up to throw him out. Jennings, the photographer, snaps the priest on the way out. As he develops the film, he sees something pointed at the man's face on the film.
That was one of the Doctor Who's, by the way, too.
Yeah, Patrick Troughton,
the priest.
Doctor Who number 2, was the priest. He's a little more sketchy in this one.
Yes, a lot more sketchy, yeah.
Mrs. Baylock starts work as the new nanny, but neither Thorne nor Catherine, his wife, actually hired her. "Have no fear, little one, I'm here to protect thee," she says when alone with the little boy. His parents want Damien to go to church, but Baylock resists. The parents prevail, but when they get Damien to church, he freaks out, screaming and clawing at his mother. "He's never been sick a day in his life," comments his mother, and his father thinks that's a little off all by itself.
Never sick at all.
Never.
Huh.
Mrs. Baylock starts bringing the black dog inside the house as a guardian. Thorne insists that the dog be sent away, but she ignores him. Catherine and Damien go to the zoo, and all the giraffes run away from Damien, while the baboons attack the car. Suddenly, Catherine wants to start seeing a psychiatrist.
I saw trivia about the baboon scene. They were trying to figure out how do we make the baboons get upset and go after the car, or at least look like they're going after the car. And they tried baby baboon. They took one of the baby baboons from one of the mothers and put that in the car with a handler, with an expert. No reaction. Well, baboons are very hierarchy oriented. They took the leader of the baboon group, took him into the car with them in the back seat, hidden in the back seat. That set them off.
Huh.
That's what they got the baboons all fired up and angry and bashing at the car and shouting at the car and stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
That's how they filmed that scene. And of course they spliced it up to make it look much worse than it was. And but yeah, that's what got them. They were really screeching and upset because their leader had been taken and stuck in the car in the back seat with the handler. The alpha.
Wow.
Or whatever, yeah.
Well, then they go to a soccer game, and the old priest confronts Thorne again, telling him to meet him the next day as Thorne's wife is in danger. Once again, Jennings takes his picture. Jennings is a bit of a stalker, isn't he?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Paparazzi.
Yeah.
Once again, there's a strange line pointing at the priest in his print. The priest tells Thorin to go to the old town of Megiddo and see the archaeologist who lives there. That man will tell Thorin the story of his son. The priest says Damien is the son of Satan, and he will kill them all if not stopped. A strange windstorm suddenly appears, and lightning strikes the church's lightning rod, which breaks off, flies through the air, and impales him, exactly where the line in the photo showed that it would.
Ka-chunk.
Yeah, Catherine gets pregnant, but she tells the psychiatrist that she thinks Damien is evil. She also doesn't think Damien is hers, but she doesn't really know the truth. The doctor recommends an abortion for the new baby. Wait, what?
New baby?
Your son is evil. You should kill the second baby. What?
What? Wait a minute. What?
Meanwhile, Catherine is watering plants in the upstairs hallway while Damien rides his tricycle through the house. When the Latin chanting begins, you know someone's in trouble.
Yeah, that's a consistent theme throughout the movie.
Stay away from the Latin chanting.
The chanting. Uh-oh.
He runs into her stool, knocking her over the railing and killing the unborn child. Catherine wakes up and tells Thorin, "Don't let him kill me."
But no goldfish were killed in the scene. A bowl of goldfish also falls off the railing and smashes down below. They actually used painted sardines instead of, they took out the live goldfish for that.
Wow. Here's your job. You paint the sardines.
Yeah, paint orange, make them look like...
With the priest's prophecy about the death of the baby and the death of the priest, Thorin starts to wonder if there might be something to all this. Jennings calls for a meeting, and he shows Thorin his strange photos of the dead priest. It also happened with the first nanny. The lion appeared in the same place as the rope she hanged herself with. Unfortunately, Jennings has a photo of himself, and there's a lion on him as well. Jennings has done research on the priest, and he lived an unusual life. He convinces Thorin all too easily. Thorin and Jennings go to the hospital in Rome where Damien was born. There had been a very specifically targeted fire 5 years ago that destroyed everything. They do find the old priest that was involved with the adoption, and he scrawls the name of an old cemetery nearby. They go to the cemetery and dig up the bones of Damien's mother, who turns out to be a jackal.
Huh.
The two men also find the Thorn baby's body, clearly murdered. They are run out of the cemetery by a pack of evil black dogs. Thorn calls Catherine and tells her to pack bags for a trip. Mrs. Baylock throws her out of the 9th floor hospital window. Oh, they went for a trip.
Yep, they did.
They finally go to Megiddo to see the old archaeologist Bugenhagen, who tells Thorin how to kill Damien.
Bugenhagen is just the most awful name. Awesome name, isn't it?
Bugenhagen. Bugenhagen.
Yeah.
Bugenhagen. His blood must be spilled in a church, and there are 7 daggers required to kill Damien. As he and Jennings argue over who will kill Damien, Jennings gets beheaded in the death that had to have inspired the Final Destination films 20 years later.
Yeah, that's quite a chain of events.
Yeah. Thorin finds the number 666 on Damien's head under his hair, and then Mrs. Baylock attacks him. He stabs her in the neck and traps the dog in the cellar. He carries Damien to the car and drives to the church. Thorin drives like a maniac, and the police get on his tail. He carries Damien into the church, kicking and screaming, lays him down on the altar, and grabs the 7 daggers. Then the police shoot Thorin, and the film ends with Damien smiling evilly at the funeral, now under the care of the president himself. There you go.
Yep.
The end for now. Bugenhagen. This is definitely one of the best horror films of the 70s, and I remember it having a big influence on me when I saw it at age 9 or 10. This, along with The Exorcist, redefined horror from the silly, sexy Hammer films into something completely new. The music alone takes it to a whole new level. There's not even a hokey monster to cringe at. There's actually no real evidence of anything supernatural really happening. This could all just be a couple of paranoid parents and psychotic nannies.
And coincidences.
You don't see the devil.
And coincidences, yeah.
And coincidences, yeah. Structurally, the movie has a sequence of little quests that Thorin and Jennings must accomplish to get to the truth. In modern times, this would have made a great video game. First you go to the cemetery, then you go to the church,
And then you find the daggers, and
archaeologist.
then, yeah.
It follows one thing after another, not being particularly artsy about anything, but still managing to convey a growing sense of dread and creepiness. The acting is just about perfect from everyone involved. If you haven't seen this one already, it needs to go on your must-see list soon. If you have seen it, then watch it again, as it all still holds up really well. And remember, if you have the Antichrist child in your car and you're driving to the church with the daggers, watch the speed limit.
Absolutely. Obey traffic signals.
Yes. And that's our show.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Stop in at the week at horrorguys.com to read the articles. Get ready for next week when we'll be watching some more classics.
Such as?
We'll be watching The Black Castle from 1952, The Last American Horror Show from 2018, Blood from the Mummy's Tomb from 1971, and Damien, Omen II from 1978.
Right on. They made another one.
They did, and we'll probably watch a horror short as well. All right, well, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we will see you next week.
See ya.